Hey, let me tell you guys a story. Anybody in here 16 years old? Exactly 16 years old? Any 16-year-olds? Okay, nice try. Okay, some of you guys north of 16 got some 17, 18-year-olds in the house. So I'm hanging out with a friend, got invited to go to a conference. One of my friends back in high school, his dad was like this big wig audio engineer, like soundboard extraordinaire. And they used to do this massive conference in Beaumont, Texas called Hot Hearts. And it was like the coolest conference to go to because they had like all the greatest Christian artists and speakers and bands and all this good stuff. And my buddy's dad was like running sound for the whole thing. So he brought me back there. It was really cool. We got to hang out with David Crowder and his band. And it was just really fun. So it's the last night of that conference, and my buddy's dad is working late. We're hanging out backstage with all these cool people. It's like midnight, 1 a.m. So it's like 2 a.m. at this point, and we're just hanging out, and like a bunch of people are like, hey, let's go to Whataburger. So my buddy and his dad and I hop in this car in Beaumont, Texas, and we get on this long, straight road, and there's nobody around. Nobody around. And so I got to experience for the first time like what actual speed feels like, okay? So how fast do you think my buddy's dad started driving on this road? Just take a guess. 130 miles an hour? 251 miles an hour. I don't think I would be here today if that was true. What do I got over here? How much? 180? Well, ding, 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 ding. Micaiah was the closest. We got up to 120 miles an hour, which for me, I was like freaking out. And it was just a straight shot, nobody around. And I learned what it feels like. When you start to go that fast, you feel it right here in your chest. How many of you guys have ever been in a speeding car? Don't incriminate your parents, okay? Don't tell me how fast they were going. Some of you guys have felt this, right? When you're going so fast, like, right, you feel it in your chest. Okay, so like you can feel it, and then you start to notice, right, the things outside the car don't look like what they used to look like. You know, when they're standing still, like light poles don't look like light poles. They look like, you know, like Gumby sticks or something like that, because you're just flying past stuff. So your vision's impaired. You feel it in your chest. At that point, that was the first time in my life that I had ever like really discovered what speed felt like. Okay, and one of the things that God is teaching me right now, that it's taking him a long time to teach me. Really, honestly, guys, for about the last couple of years, God seems to kind of in waves teach me this. He's trying to teach me the effects that speed have on my body. The effects that speed have on my body, okay? And so I actually just spent a week, this last week in Nashville. Anybody been in Nashville, Tennessee? Nashville, Tennessee is my first time ever going. It was cool. It was a great city. You guys like it? Yeah, it was awesome. I had a great time. So my wife and I got to go get away. Sweet. And so I took a book with me. It's a book called The Deeply Formed Life by Rich Villodas. Great book. And sure enough, from the first page, I open this thing up, God just begins to continue to teach me about the effects that speed have in my life. And so honestly, guys, I don't have much to say this morning other than I just want to read for you a couple of the really impactful things that God's been teaching me, and specifically how he's teaching them to me through this book. Okay, so listen to this statement. I'm just gonna make a statement. It says, deep in our souls, we crave space with God that is defined by silence, stillness, and solitude. I'm gonna read it one more time. Deep in our souls, we crave space with God that is defined by silence, stillness, and solitude. Those three things, silence, stillness, and solitude, are the antithesis, the opposite of speed, right? And the effects that speed have on our life are they eliminate any opportunity for us to be silent, to be still, and to be alone, to be in solitude, okay? And so that is what this guy in this book is trying to convey to all of his listeners and all of his readers, is that simple truth. Okay, let me read something else for you guys. It says this: unless we live with an intentional commitment to slow down, we have no hope for a quality of life that allows Jesus to form us into his image. Unless we live with an intentional commitment to slow down, unless we put our need for speed aside, We have no hope for a quality of life that allows Jesus to form us into his image. And let me hit you with one more one-liner here. The speed that we live at does violence to our souls. The speed with which we live at does violence to our souls. You guys are aware of this, okay? I promise it's not gonna take me much time to convince you. There's a reason why speed limits exist. Because, like my buddy's dad, when you get that straightaway road and you see nobody's around, what's the temptation to do? To just gun it, pedal to the metal, man, let's go. Shove it down and see how fast you can get it going, right? And we would be tempted to do that all the time if the police didn't guard our streets and if there were not these things called speed limits across all of our roads. Because guess what happens? When you speed up, as speed increases, control decreases. Okay, think about that for a second. If you're taking notes, write that down. As speed increases, control decreases. And as control decreases, the opportunity for mistakes to be made and for them to have catastrophic consequences increases. So if you're going 20 miles an hour and you yank the wheel to the right really hard, you're gonna turn to the right. You're gonna keep going. If you're doing 120 miles an hour and you yank the wheel to the right, you're going to flip about 16 times and you're probably gonna get thrown from the vehicle and you're probably not gonna survive, okay? And so here's the thing that I wanna highlight. This is what God's been challenging with me, is because I believe this guy, Rich, who's writing this book is on to something major and it's speaking to my soul. Culturally, we live in such a fast-paced world where each and every one of us are told to do more, be more efficient, or you get left behind. And everything in your life encourages you to go faster and faster and faster, right? Making a 91 on the test isn't good enough because somebody made a 93. So you need to study harder next time. And you need to get that 90, you need to get all the way up to 100. If you're on your football team, baseball team, basketball team, right? You're not good enough until you make varsity. And so you need to work tirelessly until you achieve that goal. And then when you get there, it's about making it to the playoffs. It's about all these things, right? More, faster. The quicker you can get there. The sooner you can get there, the more praise you receive, right? So you can attribute that to anything. That's just culturally in our culture. You guys are told you're worth something if you can achieve it, but not just achieve it, like achieve it now, quickly, right? And it's doing violence to our souls. It's just like a car running 120 miles an hour. You can't possibly see everything that's going by you because you're moving so fast. You're moving so fast. When this guy is writing in this book, he gave this really amazing illustration that kind of talks about the spiritual effects. And I want to read this to you guys. I got just a couple more things I want to say. And then we're going to do some more worship together. And then I'm going to give you something to think about. We've been doing this reflection time thing, and it's been really helpful. So give me just a second. So after he says speed does violence to our souls, he says this, kind of thinking about the spiritual implications of going too fast. I sometimes imagine a scenario in which someone is locked inside of a supermarket and dies of starvation. I sometimes imagine a scenario in which someone is locked inside a supermarket and dies of starvation. Can you imagine? You might say that this is impossible, yet in our spiritual lives, this happens every day. The truth of the matter is, the reason why our souls crave for silence, solitude, and stillness is because we need it. Because in a spiritual sense, we're running past every single thing that God has given us to enrich our lives and to encourage health. He's given us all of those things, and it is possible that we will be working so hard and so fast towards another goal that we would miss all of it. So we must embrace what I read earlier. We must embrace a lifestyle that is that chases after and clings to and doesn't let culture push us further and further away from silence, solitude, and stillness. And you probably wouldn't be surprised. This is going to blow your mind, or it might not blow your mind, that Jesus himself is the one who modeled this. Like Jesus himself is the one who modeled this for us. I want to read something to you guys again. I'm just quoting this guy all over the place. It's so good. I pretty much highlighted almost every word in this entire book. If you want to read it, I'll loan you the book. It says this when talking about Jesus and this lifestyle. It says, Jesus, Son of God, Son of Man, he cannot be truthfully understood apart from his deep commitment to a monastic kind of life. And what monastic is like the lifestyle that monks choose, where they don't talk to anybody, they just pray all day and all stuff. That's a little bit extreme, but he goes on to say this. Jesus was regularly active in preaching, healing, casting out demons, and far more. But his life would be self-contradicting apart from the long hours he spent with the Father in silence and in solitude. One could make a strong case, listen to this, that the fully human Jesus was able to live the life that he did because of the constant time and energy put into being with the Father in prayer. Here's the reality, guys. Jesus was busier than any of us and every one of us. No, but none of us know exactly what it's like to step out in public and have almost every single person bring their sick, their wounded, their most needy people and things to them and beg you at your feet, please do something. Like Jesus was the busiest guy that we'll ever see because of everything that he began to display. Like when people started to realize like he's the God of the universe in flesh, when the world started to notice, there's no way that Jesus could move the crowds away fast enough. So we read all over the New Testament about all the healings, all the preaching, all of the encounters that Jesus had with people. And yet he makes it really clear in places like Mark chapter 1, verse 35, very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place that would be alone, in silence, in stillness, where he prayed. That's the opening chapter of Mark's gospel, setting the tone. And if you read all of Mark chapter 1, even before you get to verse 18, it's already detailed all these things that Jesus has done, the busyness and craziness that's going on in his life. And then you read aligning gospels like Luke when you get to chapter 4, and Jesus is baptized by John the Baptist, and he immediately goes into the wilderness where he's tempted for 40 days. He withstands 40 days of temptation because he was centered in his personal relationship with Jesus, with God the Father. And so I want to encourage you guys. I know some of you guys are thinking, man, I'm in junior high, dude. What are you talking about? My life ain't crazy. Some of you seniors in high school, man, like you think life is busy now. Wait till you get to college. Wait till you get married. Wait till you start having kids. It only gets worse. Culture only pushes you faster and faster. And so you may not think this applies to me right now, but it does, I promise. And my challenge would be, how can we embrace those simple three things, solitude, silence, and stillness? How can we follow in Jesus' example? It doesn't look fun. It's not all this exciting stuff, but honestly, guys, the key is prayer. And the thing that God's been wrestling with me on for almost 2 years now is more of like me answering the simple question, why do I not spend more time with God in prayer? If I really believed that he is who he says he is, man, I would be running to a prayer closet hours in the day to spend time with him like that, okay? And so I know that's a challenge, and I know you may not think it's important to where you're at right now, but trust me, if you want to be a follower of Jesus, this is for everybody. If you want to be a follower of Jesus, we must reclaim Jesus's mindset and his lifestyle that we have to be still, silent, and get alone with God the Father in a personal way.